But to the panelists, I have both good news and bad news. Bad news is that I'm a tough examiner. I have questions for you. The good news is that you don't have to answer it specifically anyone. You can pass it on to the next person next to you. You are free to volunteer the man or woman next to you. And just say, oh, he knows it, he knows it. But I was told that you are panelists because you know all the answers anyway. So I welcome you, and I hope that we'll get enough time to have the audience also speak. But very quickly, just so that we're clear, I have right next to me here Florine Jobin, Head of Content Program Development or Coordination for the ERF. I have next to her Dr. Raymond Bakani, Director, CMEO, Innotech. Then Dr. Joel Gomez, President and CEO, the Center for Applied Linguistics, Washington, USA. Dr. Victoria Kanobi Kisai, Programs Coordinator, UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern Africa, based in Kampala. And Dr. Carlos Diaz, who is Rector of the Multiversidad Mundo Real Edgar Morin, Head Professor in Philosophy, University of La Habana. And Professor Abejalil Akari, Professor in International and Comparative Education at the University of Geneva. Dr. Francois Vallée, President of Professor Pacifico Business School in Peru. Professor Norbert Onkono, President of the Benin Academy of Science, based in Benin, Cotonou, Benin. And Dr. Malva Viltalon, Professor, Faculty of Education in Pontificia Universidad in Chile. That's incomplete name. And then Dr. Joan Garcia, last but not least, Sectorial Coordinator of Strategic Operations under Secretariat for Basic Education, Secretariat of Public Education, United Mexican States. So you're all welcome. And I start off very quickly. What is intraculturalism? And how does it relate to interculturalism? Did I just see a hand go up? Okay, I thought so. I saw your hand. Yeah, there you go. Victoria, please.
Okay, thank you very much. You've asked about intraculturalism and how does that relate to interculturalism?
Right.
Okay. Intraculturalism refers to the conversations and approaches we have based on an in-depth understanding of each culture, where we come from, its behaviors, its values, and for purposes of making sure that we have a deep understanding of the realities that each culture faces. And it's very critical for a learning environment to understand what are some of those introspective aspects of each culture or the diversities within the culture where the learners come from, or the societies where we live and how that could impact on education. When it comes to interculturalism, then the discussion sort of changes because it looks at the cross-cultural diversities. It looks at the challenges that we face in our different cultures to try and challenge the self-segregations that we normally have, because I know that for each one of us here, the culture that we come from is so dear to you. But it's like opening up to the other world to try and understand what the other cultures are all about, so as to promote interaction, dialogue, and respect for the diversity.
Fantastic. So how would you say that relates? That's intraculturalism. How does that relate to globalization? Right. Are you volunteering him? That's great.
In order to go from culturalism to globalization, I think that we first must understand what culture is. And the best definition is that culture is what is left in you when you forget about everything else.
Lo que significa que nadie tiene
What means
inmediatamente
that no one
conciencia de su
has
cultura.
immediately awareness of their culture.
Como no tengo conciencia de mi cultura,
And
lo
as
que
I'm not
pienso,
aware of my
lo que
culture,
vivo,
then
lo
what I
que
think,
siento,
what
lo
I
que
say,
amo,
what
lo
I
tomo
feel,
como
what I
normal.
love, I take it as normal.
Y ahí empieza el problema cuando me encuentro
And
con
there
otro,
is when the
con
problem
otra
starts, when
cultura,
I find
que
myself
para
with
él
another
lo que
culture
me gusta
that
no es
for
normal.
them, what I like is not normal.
Desde luego, el intraculturalismo va a ser ese necesario esfuerzo para conocer muchísimo
will
mejor
be
su
that
propia
needed
cultura
effort in order to know much better their own culture,
después
in order
vincularse
to
con
be able or
los
to want
otros
to be linked
universos
with the
culturales.
others, with the
Entonces,
other
la
cultural universe.
globalización
So then,
tiene dos
globalization
caminos. O bien es la
has two roads.
uniformización,
either
una sola
is the
cultura,
uniformation,
un solo modo de
just one
pensar,
culture,
como Margaret
one
Thatcher.
way of
There is no
thinking
alternative.
as Made's culture. No hay alternativa.
O
There's
bien,
no alternative.
La globalización
Or rather,
es el encuentro
globalization
de las
is
culturas en
the
un
meeting
mundo
of
diverso
cultures
donde hay varias alternativas
in a
y
diverse way
debemos
where there are
discutir
several
juntos
alternatives,
todas esas
and we must
alternativas.
discuss
Si no conozco
together all
bien
those
mi
alternatives.
cultura,
And if I do not
nunca
know
voy a
very
poder
well my
admirar
culture,
la
I will
cultura del otro.
never be able to admire the culture of the other.
Thank you very much. That's pretty good. Now brings us to transdisciplinarity. Why is it important, for education to produce knowledge across disciplines? Yes, sir, please.
Señor, por favor. Good morning or good afternoon. I think that in the transdisciplinary team, we are convened first to a motivational exercise in order to understand a difficult word to pronounce, or even rather non-pronounceable. I believe that the last thing would be to acknowledge the diversity of knowledge, human and non-human as well. The first step then would be in acknowledging that moreover the academy, there is a universe of knowledge in human communities and in human cultures. We should not keep on talking about knowledge in singular. We should incorporate the plural at the time of mentioning the word knowledge and talking about knowledges. A step ahead would be to approach other ways of production of knowledges that transcend the human and that commonly we overlook, that have to do with sphere of life. And I would call here the pension of transdiscipline, in which in order to build knowledge over the disciplines, we need first to understand the disciplines and the rest of the human knowledges, and also to approach the other ways of production of knowledges. This could allow us to be in condition of producing human knowledges, taking into account that there's no way to separate three things that in the contemporary academy are separated. The contemporary academy separates the social from the cognitive and from the living. So let's make a mental exercise. Who can find a translation or a production of knowledge that is not linked to the living entity? And who can find a live production that is not linked to the production of knowledge? And who can find each of these two things that I just asked without finding that this living entity is not individual but social? Of the topics upwards, there is no other alternative. So we can talk about knowledge of automates and the knowledge production by robots, but it's a metaphor. information processing. So then the transdiscipline convenes us, first of all, in order to know the rest and to acknowledge the diversity of human knowledges and to give a step away in order to connect it. It's not, as Moran was saying in his yesterday's presentation, a pretension, the transdiscipline of substituting discipline or the rest of knowledges. This has a very important advantage, added values that, well, we wouldn't have time to mention in order to adjust to the question, but I think that this is the impronta or the transdiscipline and the possibilities offered for education. There is a very direct relationship with interculturalism and the rest.
Thank you. I'm actually just, I have so many things to ask, but I have my eyes on the time, but I have a bonus question. What is dialecticism in simple language?
In simple language, dialecticism is what allows humans to explore, to discover, to engage, to communicate. Dialecticism allows the ability of individuals to connect with other individuals in logical arguments, to explore whether A equals B, or A is greater than B, or B than A. So dialecticism allows individuals to explore and create knowledge. Knowledge is a social construct. You need individuals in order to have knowledge and to create knowledge and to share knowledge and to transmit knowledge. So dialecticism involves discourse. It involves dialogue.
Professor Nkunu was also very eager to answer that. So maybe you add to that. And you're also eager. Okay, good. All right, let's have the two.
I agree with my colleague. The definition of dialecticism is very important and can be justified in the following way. We need to demystify and demystify the existing educational systems to create a new balanced and inclusive education system, taking into account the dynamics of history of community, their past, their present, their heritage, and their hope and challenges, their internal dynamics, without compromising the future generation. That is the challenge to achieve. It is a process, a dynamic process, with a new notion of time and temporality, and its contradiction with the need of satisfaction of the needs of our population, of the world. So balanced and inclusive education opens a new revolution, the sine qua non condition for sustainable development of our country, which will guarantee security, health, wealth, prosperity. That is a key for the route to the solution of our new challenges. So, to do that, we need to take into account the view of everyone, every people, every community. So, the students, educate the student in such a system implies its active participation. Students should become its own constructor of its own knowledge, and the teacher then becomes a facilitator. So it is very, very important in the notion of dialectics. It is a dynamical process in which each actor has its role to play. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Villalon. It's fine now. Okay, great. You wanted to say something? There are many more questions, believe me. All right. So really, you were saying something, Professor Nkono. You said that's important in the education system. The teacher becomes a facilitator. The students dictate how or what they learn. Is that correct? Or does that mean we come to class and the teachers don't teach? They just ask, what do you want to know? Or how does that work?
Both teachers and students are actors in the construction of knowledge. So they have to participate at in a quasi-equal manner. So it is a system which requires active participation of each actor. Okay? So the teachers construct, he's an actor in these dynamics of construction of knowledge. So he's not like now in an authoritarian system where he comes and gives the knowledge, and students are there just to learn from the teacher.
Thank you.
Have also to give to the knowledge construction.
Fantastic. That's what I needed to get. Now let's bring it down to contextuality. You know, I think the Sheikh did say quite a bit about that in launching the global guide this morning. I won't want to repeat what he said because he did put up a punchy line there that emphasized, underscored contextuality. But the question I want to put to you, because I want to keep some time for the audience, is how do you actually promote contextuality? You know, how do you promote that? How do you push for that? How do you do that, practically speaking? How can that be made to happen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say that, well, education systems primarily aim to achieve three objectives. The first, to enable children to go to school, to stay in school, and to learn while they are in school. And so cited by Dr. Joel in the talk that he gave earlier, a primary reason for non-attendance in school is the medium of instruction. If the medium of instruction is a language which is foreign and alien to the child, then that could be a reason for non-attendance. Also, we have high dropout rates in many developing countries, and one of the reasons behind that is the lack of interest. If the child is unable to relate what is being taught to his or her actual experiences, then she may lose interest in going to school, and that can be a reason for the dropout. Now, to address your question, well, many education systems are run by the central government. That's on one hand. On the other hand, we say that education is a partnership between the home, the school, and the community, which is a very much local or localized concern. Unfortunately, because schools are not actually local government entities. And so to bridge this gap, I think we heard from the presentation by our Mexican Vice Minister, to be able to bridge this gap, this is strategy, for instance, of curricular autonomy, which involves contextualization. It goes by different terms, indigenization or localization, or some of the strategies to make sure that what is being taught in school is something which is really relevant to the context of the child and to the community, so that that will promote greater ownership of the teaching and learning process at the local level. And hopefully that will enhance the, well, the output, the learning outcomes from this process.
Thank you very much. I'm concerned we're running out of time, and the people are eager to ask you, the experts, all the questions, about BIE. But can I ask you, maybe I should ask first the audience, and that's one of the problems of if you are distracted and you're not concentrating, I'll pick on you. What are the 4 pillars of basic and inclusive education? What are the 4 pillars? Do I have a volunteer, or do I volunteer you? To be sure that you were paying attention. And the person who looks down is the one that will be picked. So, okay, please, Dr. Villan, you wanted to help them out.
That question was not for me. But anyway, I would like to make a point about the 4 pillars. I think we need to decolonialize education, not only in relation to mother tongues and official languages. All children face the challenge of understanding, expressing, communicating in the academic language at schools, because this language dominates educational practices. While children arrive from their families, their communities, with a non-academic language that carries meaning for them and sense, that transition is very difficult. And I think we have to make education a forum like this one, like this space we are sharing. And I'm quoting the psychologist Jerome Bruner in making a forum of education to share our knowledge from the 4 pillars as guides to a more balanced and inclusive education. And if you think of education as a forum, from the perspective of these 4 pillars, we have a guide to walk together
Sorry to interrupt
our national
you,
agendas.
But what are those 4 pillars? Because you said the 4 pillars. From the 4 pillars, what are they?
Intraculturalism, transdisciplinarity, dialecticism, and contextuality.
Great. Now, my last question to the panel. Give her a round of applause. I see you wanted to. Now, how interconnected are those 4 pillars? That's my last question, and then you get from the audience. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Je pense que ces 4 piliers sont reliés entre eux principalement par la notion de contextualisation qu'on vient de discuter.
Not only for the contextuality that we just discussed. If I take the example of a language, mother language kid, in the same sense, I think that we should instruct a child in the mother tongue during the first years, but let's talk about context. When it comes to the language of education, there are things regarding decisions, and in many regions in the world there are indigenous communities that would not like to be instructed or taught in their own language, because they think that it was in order to put them in a ghetto or in a difficult situation, and if they do not get to high school or middle high, they are not interested anymore in education. Many education experts teach people saying provide the right to minorities and let them learn in their own language, but sometimes this right is not respected. For example, migrants do not have the right to learn with their mother tongue. So we need to contextualize things, because rich countries do not authorize migrants to be taught in their mother tongue, because mother language, because countries are scared to lose their identity based on language. Contextuality allows us to resist any political restrictions, and this could be explained by the contextuality apart from the concepts and in researches.
Thank you very much. Now we have just 5 minutes left. Répétez, s'il vous plaît. Okay, so with only 5 minutes to go, I'll take 1, 2, 3 questions. I have a panel of experts, they know everything. You can ask them about balanced and inclusive education. Yes, please, go ahead. Make it brief, straight to the point, make it difficult.
I would like to know how. I would like to know how to make this proposal, or how to avoid restrictions, or avoid having resistance from certain officers, because it has been hard for me. A few things have been hard for me, and I think this is a huge thing, and there are many chances that these officers will not listen to.
Okay, if I got that wasn't a question. Okay, just a comment. Anybody else? Thank you for your comment. Yes, please. Okay, you want to?
Thank you very much. Mine is not a question. It is an appreciation of the 4 pillars. Because when I look at them, for example, when you look at directism, it addresses well the 4 C's, the 4 skills advocated for the 21st century, where the learner can think critically, creatively, communicate, and collaborate with others as they solve problems. When you look at contextualize, if we really embrace this and we contextualize our education, it will be meaningful to the learners. So learners will be paying attention, because they will know that what they learn in classroom will benefit them as they solve problems in the future. And when you look at the world today, we don't need only one discipline to solve the challenges we are going through. We need to integrate all the disciplines so that we can solve the challenges we always meet in the world. Thank you very much, panelists. You are so great. Yeah, what you came up with really is going to help our education systems. Thank you.
Thank you for thanking them. But we had a response here as well. Yes.
I wanted to answer, or to elaborate more on the comment from the first person. Of course, it is huge. It is something huge, and it is something that looks kind of revolutionary. And why? Because in the 4 pillars, if we do not adopt them positively and we don't see what are the enemies that criticize these 4 pillars, we find a peculiar logic. Dialectism criticizes authoritarianism, and intraculturalism criticizes colonization. Contextuality criticizes uniformism, and transdisciplinarity criticizes the monologism, which is an only way, a unique way to understand rationality. So if we take one authoritarian thought, colonized thought, and monologic, then we will get to the public office, the international public office that wants to impose a standardization of education with indicators that will be valid for everyone, and it will be according to your ranking and classification of achievement. To those indicators, you are going to be more or less prestigious, and you will have more or less money, or you will be able to publish less or more, and you will be less or more. So, and of course, this work criticizes the system and the core of the system, which is standardization. But we need to create bridges, because we cannot face everyone and be fighting against everyone in a radical way, because if not, we wouldn't be being contextual. So we need to have a bridge in order to make the enemy go back. And we will achieve to create bridges if we demonstrate that the standardization processes of world education in reality create more problems than the ones they solve. And humanity, with this education, which is authoritarian, it's standardized and uniform, will be dying and will not stay in the planet anymore. And that is where the Mother's Nature warning is telling us, be careful, Homo sapiens, because you are not sustainable anymore. You are destroying the conditions that allow you to live on this planet. So I think it is exactly the critic we need governments to hear, and international public officers, and also the certifying agencies, to say, wow, we need another education for a different economy, for a different social world or social life in another world, because if not, we wouldn't have 22nd century. So we need to communicate this urgency, and afterwards this work will give us concepts in order to set different education standards. It is a constant combat.
Thank you, Dr. Villalon. I allowed him to go on because I thought that was a befitting last set of words for the session. Unfortunately, I don't have any more time. We've run out of time. And in our bid to catch up with time, you'll be expected to return from lunch by 1:30. So thank you very much. Help me thank the panelists. Very brilliant people. Give them a good round of applause.